right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to For the Girls. We are so excited to be here today. David Coulthard needs no introduction. He is a British driver who drove for Williams, Red Bull, for McLaren in his very illustrious career. He won 13 Grand Prix, collected over 60 podiums, and at the time of his retirement, he was the highest scoring British driver of all time. David retired as a driver in 2008, now one of the most familiar faces in F1 broadcasting, analysis, journalism. David, we cannot wait to discuss your thoughts and involvement in the sport, especially surrounding Vegas, McLaren, Vista, the American audience, and much more.
Yeah, well, thank you
here.
very much for that big build-up. I can only disappoint after that. It's so embarrassing. It seems like a lifetime ago. It's 15 years since I slipped on the Nomex and I pretend to be a Grand Prix driver. But anyway, still involved with the sport, still passionate about it, and looking forward to the continued growth in America.
Yeah. Well, speaking of, so we're so happy to have you here. Just to start off, can you tell us briefly about your current involvement in F1 and what made you want to get involved with the Vegas GP and especially the Vista race experience?
Okay, well, since I retired at the end of 2008, I initially started working as a pundit for BBC, and I knew that my time as a driver had come to an end, but my passion for the sport hadn't. So what do you do if you can't do it anymore? You talk about it. And that led a couple of years later to founding a production company called Whisper. And Whisper TV is now many years down the line, has now grown to having 250 employees. We do Formula One, we do women's rugby, football, cricket, sailing, you name it, we do it. And Sony own
Amazing.
But on that journey, not content with broadcasting, I go to a lot of events, and many of them are great, but many of them are just okay. And that just didn't seem very Formula One, because Formula One aspires to be the best. Now, we obviously don't always achieve it, but no harm in aiming for it. And anyway, that led to me partnering with Guy Horner, who just happens to be the brother of Christian Horner, who runs Red Bull Racing. Guy had a very successful existing business, TBA, in the event space. And anyway, we founded Velocity. And we've been growing over the last several years as a motorsports-focused agency. And the obvious next challenge, given that we're going to Vegas, was to see if we can create the ultimate viewing package experience. And so we partnered with Drai's. We're calling it Vista. We've got McLaren, obviously, on board as our partner team, and a lot of good connection to them in the past. Because as you mentioned, or as was mentioned at the beginning, I drove for them for many years.
So let's talk a little bit about Vegas. It's obviously going to be a very unique setting. I think the event that you're putting on is going to be especially unique in that sense. How do you think Vegas is going to impact the atmosphere of the race weekend? It's going to be very different from the typical race weekend. So what are you most excited for?
Yeah, I think every Grand Prix has its own USP, but Vegas is Vegas. I've been there many times over the years. My good friend Guy Liberty is the founder of Cirque du Soleil. So every time he did a show there, I would go out and support him and the team. So Vegas has a unique setting. Obviously, doing it in November might prove somewhat challenging in terms of temperature, because I believe temperatures can drop quite a lot in the evening. It's going to be a Saturday evening show, which I think will just capture already what is a global audience. But there's no question it will be like the big fight nights where the world will be watching. Saturday evening, the Formula One cars head down the strip. Americans do sport entertainment brilliantly, and us Europeans are learning from that, but we catch on pretty quickly. And I think that under Liberty's ownership, we've got Miami, we've got Austin and Texas, but Vegas is the one they're promoting, and it's going to be very interesting to see what new thing they can unleash as a promoter in collaboration with the city of Las Vegas.
Yeah. So speaking of American fandom and American races, we're obviously American, and we're thrilled about having 3 races, and especially the addition of Vegas and a night race, as you mentioned. What's it been like for you, who's been so involved in the sport for a very long time, to see that growth in America, see the sport change a lot? And how do you feel like Vegas plays into that even more than Austin has, than even Miami has?
Yeah, I think that is a good point. Formula One has struggled over the decades to really get a foothold in America. You've got so many great sports there that served the audience fantastically well. And, you know, I think Formula One at certain points was a little bit confusing. The you know, it's not like NASCAR or IndyCar where there's constant overtaking, constant entertainment. It's more of a chess match, and there's a lot more technology. I think that, you know, the other great motorsports championships in America would acknowledge that Formula One is the pinnacle in terms of automotive technology. So I think just it takes a slightly more sophisticated audience, the perfect storm of the horrible situation of COVID, Netflix doing the thing with Drive to Survive, I think captured an audience that needed content, and suddenly we've got a growth market. I think Vegas will undoubtedly bring its own unique sort of fairy dust, which, with the greatest respect to Miami as a day race and Austin as a day race, which are, you know, two great cities, as you know, it just won't be the same vibe as under the lights with all of the backdrop of Las Vegas. And yeah, I'm really excited about it. As I mentioned before the call, I'm heading out there this afternoon. My team have been out there repeatedly, of course, with the setup, but I want to go personally and see how things are progressing and just make sure that we really deliver for the audience.
That's so great. So speaking of, can you give us some insight into Vista 3-day experience? What's in store? What are your team working on right now?
Yeah, well, as mentioned, and for those who are familiar with Las Vegas, they'll know the Drai's location, rooftop entertainment space overlooking the Strip. What we are going to do is redress it. We're partnered, as I mentioned, with McLaren Formula One team, who, although not winning at the moment, are definitely a team on the move, getting some podiums. Yeah, with Lando and I think there's a lot of affinity with McLaren and the States, and hopefully there's a good following for them and a good support. And having driven 9 seasons, I have obviously a soft spot for them as a team. So great partners to have. Zach Brown, an ex-racer, an ex-competitor of mine, actually many moons ago, but he's the CEO there, heads the vision of the team up. And, you know, together we want to really give the ultimate viewing and entertainment experience, which every aspect of Formula One, whether it's Paddock Club, which is, you know, directly run and operated by Formula One itself, and you have fantastic location there above pit lane and what have you, but there's obviously certain restrictions that come with that, which we won't have the same issues there. Costing wise will be a price point which is more affordable as well, but you get what you pay for, of course, but we're going to deliver a quality product, and somewhere that I want to take my friends and my family there. I've already got a number of people that I want to host in the thing, so it has to be something that's worthy of my 30 years in the sport.
Amazing.
And what's it been like working so closely with McLaren? I know you just mentioned it, but after having been on the team for so long and seeing them have this amazing past few races and part of the season before summer break, has it just been super exciting being in the thick of it all?
Yeah, because a lot of the people there, of course, I know from many years of the sport. As I mentioned, Zach Brown and the drivers. Of course, I'm an old driver now, but you're sort of band of brothers. You know exactly the challenge that they're going through. Modern Formula One has got its own unique set of driving requirements, but the basis of taking a aerodynamic vehicle around a racetrack quickly has remained the same since Ayrton Senna or Schumacher or going way back beyond that. And I think it was the 80s the last time Formula One was in Las Vegas in a car park somewhere. I was certainly alive, but I don't remember watching that one. But now we've got a custom built street circuit. I'm really looking forward to working with the guys at McLaren to deliver something special.
So speaking of circuits, curious, when you were a driver, what your favorite circuit was and how you think Vegas will kind of stack up against traditional circuits and racing down the Strip. Obviously the spectacle will be incredible, but beyond that.
Yeah, it's going to be a fairly high speed street circuit. I've raced on a number of street circuits over my career. In Formula One, Monte Carlo, of course, and Singapore was their first year of Singapore street race was my last year in Formula One. Wow. But I was always pretty good in street circuits. I won Monaco a couple of times. crashed out a couple of times, but thankfully picked up the trophy a couple of times. So street circuits I felt comfortable on. I guess it's a little bit like Checo Perez. He goes well in Baku and then kind of struggles a little bit relative to Max and a lot of other circuits. But yeah, you've got to be very precise on a street track. We've got Saudi, we have Singapore, we have obviously Vegas now with Monaco. I'm probably missing one off. Hopefully that would be embarrassing if I missed another street track. But anyway, it's taking Formula One to the people is proving more and more popular rather than taking them out of the city to a custom track. And I think the cities appreciate it, the promoters, because as soon as the action on track is finished, people are very close to the bars, the restaurants, and ready to get on with the socializing.
So speaking of kind of along the same lines of that and your experience in Formula One, you mentioned the Checo and Max discrepancy or disparity a little bit, but what has been your favorite storyline as a commentator and broadcaster this season?
Well, one of the most bizarre sort of lines that I heard early on was like, Red Bull are just going to dominate and there's not going to be any competition. Well, yes, Max is a bit of a winning machine right now, but it's been incredibly close in terms of pace and qualifying. And okay, in the race, he stretches his legs, he makes better use of the tires, and he's just at one with that car. But if you put him to one side, Formula One is very close in that sort of top 10, top 9, or top 9 from second down is incredibly close. And beyond. So that really gives me a lot of excitement for the future of Formula One in terms of how the regulations are set and how people will inevitably close the gap to Max as time goes on. History would suggest that Owen dominates forever, but we should admire what he's achieving right now whilst watching the others jockey for position. There's not really been that many sort of any scandal or rumor. We haven't had the wheel-to-wheel battle that we had between Max and Lewis, which obviously people were either on the Max side or the Lewis side, and it's always good, isn't it, to sort of have the warring factions.
We have that here on the podcast too.
You really? Oh, you have a big disagreement as to who? Apologies, I don't know. So who's for which team?
I'm a Red Bull fan, so I'm constantly reminding them that even if Max is winning by a lot, we should be appreciating seeing such sporting excellence.
I do. I'm a big Mercedes fan, but I do recognize I recognize the history that Max is making right now. But yes, I stand with Mercedes and Lewis, especially on the wheel-to-wheel battles of 2021.
And I'm just the referee. I stir the pot. I get them excited for each of their different sides, and then I like to watch them go back and forth.
Well, look, that's the great thing about sport. It brings out a passion in us, and sport connects with all, young and old, male and female, and everything in between. And I sit on the situation and the position, I should say, where I just love to witness something exceptional, because all these sports guys are all good, and all professional sport, they should all be good. But it's the exceptions, isn't it? The exceptional, basketball player, or the exceptional soccer player, or the exceptional Formula One driver. And whether that's a Lewis, who undoubtedly is one of the greatest drivers in the history of the sport, whether it's Max, who's come in and beat him up a little bit and got his elbows out, and many other great drivers over the history of time. They're making the history by their desire, by their hunger, and by the team, of course. They've got to have a good car under them. Fernando's a perfect example. If you don't have a great car, he's been pretty much in the wilderness the last few years, and then suddenly Aston give him a good car, certainly at the beginning of the year, and it's like he's back, and better than ever. He seems to be not fading, but it does look as if Aston haven't kept up in the development race, so it's making it more difficult for him to be in amongst that battle. But what a dream that would be, to see Fernando, Lewis, and Max going toe-to-toe at some point during the year.
Definitely. I mean, watching the cool down room when the three of them are on podium has been such a treat. And Fernando seems very happy right now, which maybe a little less so as over the past couple of races, but it's really nice to see greats back up there battling, which is so fun. So for you as a commentator and a broadcaster, you get a front row seat to a lot of this. And obviously you were a front row seat as a driver. what's the transition been like, you know, as a commentator, broadcaster? What are some of your favorite things about that role?
The thing I enjoy most is I don't crash cars anymore and I don't lose races anymore, because although I had some success and I won some Grand Prix, clearly there were better drivers than me at that. You know, I did my best. I did my best. I retired with no feeling of what could have been. But it's okay. It's not as tough as being born into adversity, but in sporting terms, it's tough. It's hard. It's physically and mentally draining. It's the first thing you think about when you wake up in the morning. It's the last thing you think about when you go to bed at night, and it just dominates your life. And it's a wonderful, wonderful place to live, being a professional sports person, which essentially means your sporting passion you get paid for. How cool is that? So I'm not going to complain, but I definitely, you know, coming to the end of my career, the time still for no man is the expression, no person is probably a better expression nowadays, but you know, everyone has their moment. And whether it was Schumacher, who wasn't quite as good at the end of his career, Fernando seems to be bucking that 40-year-old trend, but you know, Lewis, Max, all of these guys will eventually be surpassed by some up-and-coming talent. The next generation should always be better. Otherwise, we're not progressing as human beings.
That's so great. Well, thank you so much for joining us. We're so excited for Vegas and Vista and getting to see it all in action. We hope you have an awesome trip out and that you have enough fun to keep bringing this energy to the US. So thanks so much for joining us. And we're so excited to see where all this goes.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much. And see you at Vista for a little glass of sparkles. There's the other thing.
Yes.
When you don't drive, I can have a drink.
Cheers to that.
Have it. Have a safe flight.
You.
Thank you very much.
All right. We are super excited to be joined here by Guy Horner, who is the CEO of the TBA Group, which is an experience maker that works around the world to deliver unique experiences across sports, consumer brands, entertainment. They really do it all. And they've done work for F1, Extreme E, Red Bull, Aston Martin, along with other massive events like a Beyonce tour and Olympics closing ceremony. So really across the board, we're super, super excited to chat. Thank you for joining us, Guy.
Pleasure. Nice to see you.
So we are obviously very excited to chat all things Vegas and the Vista event. But first, let's talk a little bit about Formula One from an events perspective. What makes it so exciting? Why are you guys excited about the F1 market and the audience in particular? I think right before we got on and clicked record, you were telling us about a pretty awesome event you did a few years ago. So why don't you just give us a little bit of background on that?
Well, I mean, Formula One has just exploded over the last few years with Netflix and Drive to Survive, and certainly in the States. But it's, you know, it's been a massive global sport for quite a while. It's really sort of come to bigger heights, and Vegas is going to be the climax of that later on in this year. But it, you know, it's exhilarating, it's exciting. There's glamour, there's danger. You know, drivers are putting lives at risk. There's the glamour of places like Monaco, Miami, now Vegas, Singapore night race. So it's a real all those things. And I think now fans can sort of see the stories behind just the racing, can see, you know, the driver contracts and trials and tribulations and the arguments and disputes and the politics of Formula One. It's a pretty exciting sort of hot pot of, you know, fun and green, make it really good viewing and really exciting. You know, there's only 10 teams, 20 drivers. It's a very exclusive club.
Yeah, it is so cool to see all of that. That was a big reason I think we got into the sport, you know, however many years ago, is just the intimacy of it and the number of different angles and entertainment with which you can really understand and get to know what's going on behind the scenes. And even more so from kind of an in-person event experience as well. We've been lucky to go to a handful of Grand Prix, but it's been incredible. But on to Vegas and to Vista, which is going to be super unique, super fun. Tell us a bit about what that experience is going to look like. How's Vegas going to be different than other tracks when it comes to hospitality and the fan experience?
Everybody's excited about Vegas, even the drivers and the team principal. and the teams, it's going to be huge. It's the entertainment capital of the world, and probably sexiest, most exciting sport in the world is coming to Vegas, which is Formula One, which is so hot right now. So it's going to be a massive event in November. And Liberty guys and LVGP are doing a great job in an amazingly short period of time of pulling together a Formula One race on the streets of Vegas, down the strip. It's going to be incredible. Expectations are super high, and we're really excited to be creating Vista with McLaren, the iconic McLaren Formula One team, led by Zach Brown. So yeah, it's going to be amazing. Vista's at Drai on top of the Cromwell, right looking over the strip opposite the famous fountains and
amazing
Eiffel
So
Tower.
cool.
So really in the action, as the cars scream down the strip from sort of Treasure Island and the Win End down to the Cosmo before heading around the circuit back to the pits. So they're going to be coming past a full whack.
That's great. I'm getting such a good visual here. I've never been to Vegas, but you called out all the right landmarks for me to just place it in my mind. So very exciting.
That's what we were excited about with Vista, because the teams, the pits, Formula One Paddock Club, is all where the pit complex is, which is going to be amazing. We wanted to do something different for fans and VIPs and our celebrity guests right on the strip. So Drai's is pretty iconic in Vegas, as the biggest and best roof terrace overlooking strip. So why not bring in the McLaren team and colors and create something really unique up there? So we're really pumped about it, and it's going to be a lot of fun.
Amazing. So tell us a little bit more about the partnership with McLaren. Why did you choose them, or what made you want to partner with them to get this event up and off the ground?
Well, look, McLaren is one of the most successful, iconic Formula One teams on the grid, and they are doing super well at the moment, which is great for Lando and Oscar of late. Their season's really turned around. But David was a McLaren driver for years. McLaren have a lot of sponsors and partners and guests. We know the guys really well. We've been working with them on other projects. And it was a sort of natural fit. We were having the conversation, and they were looking at opportunities where they could host more guests and really increase the fan experience and create something different. And they're creative guys at McLaren. You can see how they've turned their creativity cargo faster. Well, in terms of hospitality as well, they wanted to create something different with us, with Velocity, and that's really going to give a different Vegas feel to hospitality. It's not going to be like normal hospitality, and that's what we love doing at TBA, is shaking it up, whether it's Olympics, whether it's motorsport, whether it's football, and disrupting a little and doing something really premium and cool, but is going to be very Vegas and very Formula One all mashed together. So
we're thrilled about that. And one cool thing about the McLaren angle is America. There are so many American McLaren fans, from whether that's from Netflix or whatever, but just the partnership I feel like that McLaren has and the name they have in America is so cool. So I think it'll capture a really incredible audience.
I mean, McLaren is obviously part American owned as well. It's an iconic, most of the teams, as you know, are based in the UK. I think 8 out of 10 are McLaren. Amazing headquarters of the MTC. But the history of McLaren is insane, and they're involved under Zach's leadership with Indy, with Extreme E, with Formula E. So McLaren racing is a beast that goes beyond Formula One. But Formula One, of course, is the pinnacle and the really exciting bit. And as you guys have seen, the last few races, Lando and Oscar have been right up there with the Red Bulls.
We're excited about that.
And who are you fans of?
That's a great question. We
had this conversation with David this morning, because we were talking about how it's fun for him to witness the split between drivers and be able to talk about it, et cetera, et cetera. I am like a mediator between Sarah and Tiggy, who have an intense rivalry. So I'll let you guys talk about it.
It's
So
a
you keep-
respectful but intense rivalry. I'm a big Mercedes fan and a big Lewis Hamilton fan, and Sarah is on the other side of the aisle.
Yes,
You're-
I'm a Red Bull fan. I'm a big Max fan, but we are loving seeing McLaren get back up there. And that's been just one of our favorite storylines this season, that even when there's when Red Bull has such a dominant car right now, that there can be such a strong fight for kind of the upper midfield, and McLaren's performance has just been amazing.
Well, Sarah, my brother would certainly be friends with you. He'll be pleased. It's amazing what Red Bull have achieved and continue to achieve. But we're pleased to see McLaren up there as well. I think Red Bull are as well. You know, the sport needs competition. You know, it's great to see George and Lewis when they're up there. You know, hopefully the Ferraris can get back up there, because I think everybody wants to be close. I think, you know, people like Drive when it's close. He wants to race. He wants to win, but he wants to race. So yeah, you know, hopefully the other teams will catch up. You know, it's all pretty tight now with the new regulations and cost cap and stuff. So I think history's proved itself that everyone will start to copy the good bits on other people's cars, and the field will get closer. So it's going to be a really exciting second half of the year. And I think, you know, talking to Christian, is that lead they've got in the first half of the year, they're not complacent, because they know all the teams are coming at them in the second half of the year. So bring it on. I think, you know, as we get to the sharp end to sort of, you know, Vegas and the last few races, Mexico, Abu Dhabi, even though the championship might be wrapped up, the racing is going to be fierce, you know, going into next season.
Yeah. And that's something we've always been huge fans of too. I mean, it's awesome when you're witnessing greatness, but at the same time, it's also really fun to see some really high quality midfield fights happening. So we're also here for that.
You know, the drivers, as you guys know, are, you know, the best drivers in the world. And as David will have said, you know, he was a driver for many seasons. You've got to be all in and totally committed. And, you know, the hundredths, thousandths of a second that splits them sometimes in qualifying is just insane. So they're all super talented and right on the edge. And as you say, there's some amazing battles down the midfield and some amazing overtakes. You know, Checo's proved a few times, coming from perhaps out of grid position, how well he can do. And of course, you know, Lando is an amazing racer and overtaker. I think he and Max have got a lot of respect between them. I saw that they were partying at Tomorrowland with Martin Garrix after the race, so they're obviously having a bit of time off. Oscar Piastri, what a talent he is. You know, I mean, Mark Webber, who raced with my brother at Red Bull and was very successful. Mark's a canny character, smart guy, and you know, he putting Oscar into the McLaren, you know, he's really showed how quick he is, and I think that's super exciting to see as well. Maybe it will be a papaya victory in Vegas. That would be fun for McLaren Vista anyway.
Yes. We're rooting for that.
We'll hope for that. Before every race, we always do hot takes. And I was curious to hear what your ideal hot take podium would be for the Vegas event. But it sounds like a McLaren, maybe 2 McLarens and a Red Bull up there would be perfect for you.
But I've got split loyalties, but I'm slightly thought it'd be amazing to see McLaren up there. I'm sure they will be up there. You know, Ferrari, we haven't mentioned at all really, is an iconic team, and you know, everybody loves to see Ferrari doing well, and they've got a couple of great drivers there. So hopefully they can get their act together. And of course, the Lewis Max rivalry, I think, which was so defining, you know, of the 21 season. Everyone would love to see, I'm sure, them going wheel to wheel down the strip in Vegas. But for me, you know, hopefully McLaren can continue to, you know, keep their progress and their amazing form, and it'll be a lot of fun on the Drai's roof terrace.
We are so excited. And what do you think about F1 putting so much energy and investment into the Vegas race, and also just expanding to the American audience in general? And is Vista kind of part of that effort to connect with the American audience?
I think Liberty have shown time and again that they're smart guys and girls who know what they're doing. I think, you know, when they came into Formula One, everyone was like, prove it to us. What are you going to do? And that goes for the teams as well. And, you know, you look at the value they've created, the fan engagement, the fan base has grown, the content. They're doing a great job. No one can dispute that. And they know what they're doing with Vegas. It's a massive bet. Vegas know how to put on shows and entertainment better than anyone else in the world. And I think a really exciting combination. It's not a small investment. And it's, the proof will be in the pudding. I think it'll be a massive race this year. And probably next year. I think the longevity over the 10 years is interesting, as once it settles down and maybe the hype dies down a little, is it going to be the kind of diamond on the calendar like Monaco has been for so many years, or does it then become Vegas and that's like the race to attend? But certainly this year, no question, it's going to be pretty insane. When you look at Miami last year, I don't know whether you guys were there, but it was fun, but it was carnage. It was just crazy. Celebrities and global CEOs of all the top companies and broadcast and media. Calmed down a little bit this year, but all the races in America are supercharged, right? Austin's a fantastic race as well. Great city, fantastic atmosphere. I think well over 300,000 people last year. So yeah, there's a lot of expectation for Vegas, and we work at and activated a lot of races across the season, but we're super enthusiastic to be involved with the race weekend this November in Vegas.
Yeah, we cannot wait. One thing David said this morning was that Formula One strives to be the best in everything, and Vegas also is the best at, throwing events and doing a lot of that. And that combination is, I feel like, almost unbeatable. As CEO, what are your aspirations, at the end of the Vegas weekend, when all is said and done? Like, what does the success look like for you, for this first year in Vegas?
Well, I guess the 1,500 guests that we've got up on the terrace, we want them to have had an amazing time. We want them to have created, memories there that they're never going to forget. And if we've created something different, obviously you want everyone to run smoothly and have a great time, have a clean race with no big incidents. But if it, to go off well, it's just going to be spectacular. We want it to be fun for everybody. McLaren Vista is going to be different to the other things going on. There's going to be so much happening in Vegas that weekend. This, I think, as a team experience, linked with McLaren Formula One, is going to be really authentic and intimate, because it is an extension of the McLaren team, and with the insights and access to the team over the weekend, and the drivers coming up, all David's old gang and drivers and friends up, and a whole host of celebs that we've got coming. It's going to be a really fun place. I think everybody's going to have a wild time, and it's going to be great fun. And yeah, we'll look back on the weekend, I think, excited, and there's always then learnings into year two and so on. But for us as a company, obviously Formula One is one of the key sports we're involved in, and we've got Olympics next year and Rugby World Cup. So we're always benchmarking, and, we want to make sure that it's a different experience and some in terms of hospitality that's redefining hospitality. I think now you go to a race, people want to be casual, informal, people want to hang out, with Formula One as well. You want to look at the screens, you want to be able to sort of dip into the action on track and then be able to get the information on screen of, where people, what's going on around the track. So all of that comes together to make it really exciting.
Wow. Well, it definitely sounds like you have all the right ingredients to make a pretty unforgettable weekend. So we're really, really thrilled to see it all go down. And it's been so wonderful talking to you and talking to David this morning, just to get a sense of all of the excitement. So thank you so much for your time.
Well, hopefully, guys, we're going to see you there. I think Sarah might be in the Red Bull Energy Station, not in McLaren Vista.
We'll catch her another time.
Welcome you up onto the terrace, and you should do a podcast from up there.
Yes. We absolutely will. That's the plan. Thank you so much. We can't wait.
Great to see you guys.
Take care.